All right, so it's time that we get to see and know more about our guest anchor tonight. And joining me in studio, as I mentioned earlier, is of course James Mwangi, the CEO and MD at the Equity Bank. Great to have you in studio.
Thank you, Betty.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I hope you didn't get too much traffic when you were here.
No, I could cope.
Oh, you could cope.
Yeah.
So how are things at Equity Bank?
Oh, we are glad we are doing well. We continue to be supported by Kenyans, and we feel privileged that we always given out an opportunity to serve them. Yeah.
So any chance of you retiring soon, because I can send my resume there?
I think there is always an opportunity for every Kenyan to work alongside us.
Yes.
And also, maybe I don't need to retire that quickly. I need to coach and mentor you and turn you into a banker.
Yeah, before I take the bank.
Absolutely.
You see, the thing is, I'm obviously not a banker, probably because I wasn't good in mathematics. I'm sure you are pretty good in mathematics.
No, at my level, it's more of leadership. It's not a technical skill. It's really inspiring your followers to believe in philosophies of the bank, to be passionate about it, and to accept to follow you. That's really what my big job is, and you support yourself with the technical people to do the technical bit.
Okay, let me throw you off balance a little bit. Let's go back to your childhood, because I'm very curious about the kind of child you were. First of all, is it a story of from grace to grace, or is it from grass to grace? How can you describe your childhood?
You know, it is Betty. I was born at the eve of independence, and there every African child in the rural area really was brought up in a very humble setup. I was unfortunate to have lost my father at a toddler, and I was left with my late mother, Grace, and she hadn't gone to school, and the only thing she could do was to work a living out of peasantry farming. So that gives you a feel of the background of growing up in the rural areas at independence.
Is it true that at some point you were selling charcoal?
It is true. I was not only selling charcoal, but I was also vending fruits to be able, and milk to be able to pay for school fees. And I was a beneficiary of what we used to call bursaries. That time, always going to queue at Chief Waloe's office to get bursary to move on with the school. Yeah.
So it wasn't. So definitely it wasn't easy.
Yeah, it was very humble upbringing.
All right. And in your wildest dreams at that point, did you ever think that at one point you'd have accomplished all the things that you've been able to?
It is not necessarily true that at that time you could be able to see the end of it all. But I had a very prayerful mother who really kept on interceding for us and praying that God's favor be upon us. And essentially that gave us a lot of confidence of better things. And when we started performing well in school, we saw that as an opportunity. Because at that time, if you performed well in school, there was an automatic job for you.
Yes.
And truly it happened.
Yes.
So you could see. But I never saw myself when I was growing up being a leader of an organization of equities status.
It goes back to what Lupita Nyong'o said the other day, that, no matter where you're from, your dreams are valid. Seems like the same kind of story.
It is true that your circumstances is not a condition in life. We can all come out of our circumstances. You need to ask ourselves, what does it take to get out of these circumstances? And essentially, it is true that when given an opportunity, everybody has the ability to unlock their full potential. And basically what society did was to give me an opportunity to get quality education. And that quality education changed my life, like it has changed for many Kenyans.
And then fast forward to when you're, I think, was it 28, 29? Correct me if I'm wrong. Then you're given this huge responsibility. At that point, it was called Equity Building Society, and it was actually, they call it technically insolvent. What does that even mean?
It meant that if you try to balance the books of the building society, you could get negative financial value, such that It had deposits of 22 million, assets of 26 million, but had accumulated losses of 33 million shillings.
Wow.
So when you do deductions of assets and liabilities, you get a negative figure. And that was really an awkward position. Yeah.
So when you took up, because you obviously nailed it, from 5 million, losses to now you're talking about, is it 19 billion for the profit that I don't know if I should say that that Equity Bank is now making. But then, what lessons can you say you've been able to learn before when you took that job, and now that you've been able to kind of like save the Equity Bank to now where it is right now?
I think the first lesson is that any business operating in the market must have a very strong value proposition for the market. That's the only way the market accepts it, to interact with it. It must give more than it receives in terms of value. So that symbiotic relationship is important. The second thing is that business must be relevant to the people that it purports to serve. And that relevance needs to be felt by the customer themselves. So turning equity, we realized that the high margin banking business was not appropriate for the Kenyan people. We said, okay, we'll take very low margin, but we will compensate that with volume. The way people say total revenue is price times quantity, we said we will not focus on price, we'll focus on quantity. And that is why today we are home for more than 50% of our bank accounts. So you charge little, but because you are charging a huge number, then you're able. Then we realized technology could be an enabler that could reduce cost, but it was all about service. So if we could do service better, introduce a human face in banking, then people would respond positively. And truly, they responded.
It actually worked.
And when you succeed, then we embraced the concept of sharing prosperity. We said, how much can we plow back? And that is when we focused on training farmers. We focused on the informal sector, what used to be called Jua Kali. We said, that is what we focus on. And today you can see our Finca training, targeting 1 million people. We're now talking about wings to fly, 10,000, and developing nearly 2,000 leaders for the future of this country. Then once you share your prosperity, then you become owned by the society itself.
Yes. And it's very true what you're saying, and we'll be talking about wings to fly in just a short while after you introduce the story for us. But before then, what is it about Kenyan youth? Very, very driven. What could you say are the mistakes that maybe they make when they're trying to pursue some entrepreneurship skills?
I think the biggest mistake that I find Kenyans making when they pursue entrepreneurial skills is short-term focus. People want to achieve too quickly without knowing that, like a child, business grows over a time, and you can only do one thing at a time. I think that patience. The second thing is businesses, like people, needs to have values, things like ethical behavior in business. The way we say human beings observe values, and that gives them their behavior. I think that is something we need all to learn, that business should have ethics. If you look at Kenya, and I really always sympathize with the farmers. Farmers are normally miserable because business people take advantage of them. They give them seeds that are long, they give them fertilizers that is long, and everything. And that is not sustainable, because sooner or later, people realize where the problem is, and they shut you out of business. And then the last one is this quick success that people are looking for. Business success in business is not like turning on lights, that it's now on and suddenly the whole room is full of light. It's a journey. Is a process. So the question of quick gratification, immediate gratification, simply because you have put up your business, you must buy a car, you must live in a big house, you must have a big office. Those are things that take a long time to come later. And that patience is what would appeal to Kenyans. And then looking at business models. It's not just copying. Is the business model appropriate for the market? Are the products offering appropriate for the market? Are they priced appropriately for the market? Those, I would say, are the biggest lessons I've learned with the equity experience. And then lastly, the people. The success of equity is because of great staff, great dedicated, devoted employees who are very passionate. And if you look at equity, our vision and purpose is not banking. It's socio-economic transformation of our people. So they are very passionate. And that passion and enthusiasm drive the business. And you almost connect with the customers at an emotional level. So valuing the customer, giving them the respect that they deserve, really makes the business to connect with the market.
Right. Very interesting words that you're giving us, and we'll continue with the chat in a short while. So when it gets to this point, the guest anchor usually introduces a story for our audience. What I do. Probably one day I should come to Equity and, have a day in your shoes, maybe.
But Betty, you told me that if you come to the bank, you need me to train you.
Yes.
How can you make me an anchor before you have trained me?
I'll train you. So what happens is, you see this camera right here in front of you. This is camera 2. So he's going to go very, very slowly. Don't worry, you'll be fine. So just introduce the story to us, and we'll continue with the chit-chat in just a short while.
Thank you.
Feel free, yes.
Let's now turn to the controversy in marriage bill. A day after it was passed by Parliament, opinion is divided on whether it will improve or break marriages. KTN, Mashilima Kapombe has more.
When two are joined together, so goes the vow, but it seems that may now change to multiple vows, or perhaps no vows at all.
When you marry an African woman, she must know the second one is on the way.
After MPs passed the marriage bill amendments last night, Kenyans seem divided on the bill that many see as one that has shielded the men from being accountable.
If you are the head of the family, si lazima mpaka ionekana utaratibu huo kwamba wewe ni the head of the family.
Ndio zita break zaidi cause hii ni Kenya, wanaume wa huku kuzunguka wanapenda.
Be responsible. Will he be able to take care of all of us?
Yes, exactly.
Relationship experts are of a slightly different opinion that the bill may not tinker much with what is already happening in the society, but they say the bill may be going against the core values of what marriage is all about.
I mean, marriage is all about openness and honesty. And if you are, for some reason, planning to take on another wife, at the very least you should be involving your current wife in the discussion.
Bwanangu alikufa, bwana wa mtu mwingine ndiye amenichukua.
Dr. Chris Hart also says laws may not affect promises made to partners on marriage, as it is upon the individual to judge his or her partner's honesty and ability to honor the promise. On the streets, however,
I have a biology clock that is going round, so that is wasting my time and my feelings, so he'd better just not commit yourself.
that debate is likely to continue in the coming days, but the final say now lies with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Mashirima Kapombe, KTN Friday Briefing.
Thank you very much, Mashirima, for that controversial story. You fared pretty well. You were nervous, but it's not that hard.
Let me tell you,
yes,
Vicky,
please do.
I recognize that being a news anchor
Yes.
is something that one takes a gifting. And I now appreciate what you do in studio.
I love that.
Oh,
and
yes,
that's the reason
that's,
that we like, having guest anchors, you experience.
I would give myself 3 out of 10. So it's a very poor performance.
I would give you, let's say 4, 5 out of 10. Yeah, you did.
You're being very generous.
I'm being generous, but you did quite well.
Thank
So
you.
before we hand things over to our business anchor, I would like to know what inspires you. What is your mantra in life? What drives you?
I think I've realized that over time my inspiration keeps on changing. At the moment, I'm really being inspired by the Wings to Pride program, and particularly how these young, gifted, needy kids are embracing opportunities. If you look at it, 92% of all the wings to fly students who sat the exam last year qualified for a university entrance. And you can see what we need in Kenya is just to give opportunities to people. Let's give our youth opportunities. So I'm really inspired about giving people opportunities because I've realized people have enormous capability. What people lack is opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how important is leadership? Because I know you actually today you launched something to do with a leadership program. Maybe you could tell us something about that.
It is true. In 1998, we started developing leadership for this country. So far, we have over 2,000 university scholars who have joined this program. And it was out of the desire to create the future leadership. It would be value-based, ethical leadership. It would be servant leadership for the country. But more importantly, coach it and mentor it, such that it's not just pulling somebody into leadership. Leadership should be an art that somebody is fully developed for. And so far we have about 1,800 in university. And we have nearly 200 now in our foreign university. Again, because we believe leadership should be very exposed. I think I'm a strong believer that an organization or a country or a family can never be better than its leadership.
I like
and people say rains, rise and fall with leadership. So we felt the greatest contribution we can make is to build great leadership that then can take this country to great heights.
All right.
And amazingly, we were lucky that this program taps the most gifted. So when you have the most gifted, then trained into leadership. And then given opportunity, this country can go very far. And I would like really to appeal to Kenyans to support these scholars. We call them the Equity African Leadership because we want to really make Kenya a center of excellence in leadership and a role model for the rest of Africa, because the contradiction of poverty and resources sitting side by side in Africa can only be solved by having great leadership. And the type of leadership we are training is what one could call transformational disruptive leadership.
Okay. All right, as we wind up, what is your advice to, you're such a big inspiration to very many Kenyans. What would be your advice to young people who are trying to come out, young people like you mentioned, who are starting like you in the villages? There's really no, ray of hope. What is it that you would advise or inspire to them?
I think two things, that all is not lost. To seek opportunity. Opportunities will not go to them. They must seek opportunities. And when given an opportunity to do whatever it takes to unlock their full potential with that opportunity. But also, I would like to tell the young people that one of the greatest success factors of leadership is the value-based leadership. And so one should have a filter of values that helps them to determine what they can do and what they can't do based on their value beliefs. And lastly, there is no substitute for hard work.
There's no substitute.
There is no substitute for hard work. The success of our youthful people depends on sheer hard work. Luck is there, but it's only for a few. For majority of us, it's sheer hard work. And lastly, it takes patience to succeed, and immediate gratification always messes the long-term view of a young person. They have 70, 80 years to live. Let them not miss all those years by the decisions they are making today because they want gratification today. Gratification needs to be spread over a lifetime.
Couldn't have been said any better. All right, so we want you to introduce our business anchor. And this is your camera 2.
Bonetunya, what do we have today for business?
That's right, James. We have a lot in business. Of course, you're familiar with this, but I like what you said. Gratification needs to be spread out. And also talking of people who are spreading profits, we have results from the Standard Group, full year results coming in today. We have all those details coming up in business.